The tornado didn't announce itself the way people say it does. No freight train sound, no dramatic buildup. It was just wind. And then it was everything, and then it was over, and my house was a different shape than it had been 4 minutes earlier. I stood in what used to be my kitchen, the southeast corner, where the refrigerator was still standing, like it hadn't gotten the news. And I held my phone and looked at the sky through a gap where the ceiling used to be. The sky was that specific shade of green-gray it gets after. Like the atmosphere is ashamed of itself. I had my duffel bag because I'd grabbed it on instinct. I had my keys. I had my phone, which had 17 missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize, and 2 from my brother Derek, which surprised me because Derek doesn't usually initiate. I drove to my parents' house because it was the logical first move. I wasn't expecting warmth. I want to be honest about that. I'd stopped expecting warmth from that house around the time I turned 32, and realized that what I'd been calling love was actually just proximity. I was close enough to be useful and far enough away to be forgotten when I wasn't needed. My mother opened the door before I knocked. She could see the dust still on my jacket. "Derek's using the spare room," she said. Not right away. She hugged me first, asked if I was hurt, made the face. But within 4 minutes, I know because I was watching the clock on the microwave behind her. She had arrived at the shed. "It's not bad out there," she said. "Your father put in a space heater 2 winters ago. It locks from the inside." Derek was on the couch watching something. He looked up, did the chin lift greeting men do when they don't want to stand, and looked back at the screen. He'd been living there for 7 months. A transitional period, my mother called it. Derek's transitional periods had a way of becoming load-bearing walls. I said okay, I said thank you. I carried my duffel back to my car and sat in the driveway with the engine running. I wasn't angry. That's the part I keep returning to. I'd expected to be angry, but what I felt was something quieter and older, a kind of recognition. This was the family's natural geometry reasserting itself. Derek at the center, warm and stationary. Me at the edge, useful in emergencies, invisible otherwise. I thought about my father's surgery 4 years ago, the insurance appeals I filed on his behalf because he didn't understand the portal, and Derek said he didn't have time. I thought about the ice storm the winter before that, when I drove 3 hours because my mother was alone and Derek had plans. I thought about how neither of those things had ever been mentioned again. They were absorbed into the family record as expected behavior. The water flows downhill. Marcus handles it. My phone was in my hand. I wasn't scrolling with intention, just the absent movement of someone who doesn't know what to do with their hands. And then I saw her name, Claire Whitfield. We were 18 the last time I saw her. She left on a track scholarship and didn't look back, which I always respected even when it hurt. Over the years, things filtered back through the social metabolism of a small town. Software company, early acquisition, the kind of number people lower their voices to say. I'd seen her once at a reunion I almost didn't attend. We talked for 11 minutes. She laughed twice. I thought about texting her for 3 weeks afterward and then didn't. The number had been in my phone for 8 years and I'd never used it. I typed, "This is Marcus Hale. I'm in a situation. I hope this number still works." I put the phone in the cup holder and stared at the shed. There was a light on inside, pale yellow through the small window, and I thought, there it is. The geometry of this family, made architectural. My phone rang 6 minutes later. "Tell me where you are." That was it. 3 words, and something in her voice that wasn't sympathy exactly. More like orientation. The way someone sounds when they've already decided to help, and they just need the coordinates. I told her. I didn't explain the tornado at first, and she didn't ask. She just said she'd be there in the morning and to get a hotel tonight, that she'd cover it, and before I could say anything, she added, "Don't argue about that." I didn't argue. She arrived in a rented SUV. Practical, dark, no statement being made. She looked like someone who had finished performing herself for other people a long time ago. I met her at the curb with my duffel, and she looked at the house and then at me and said, "You okay?" "Yeah." "You sure?" "No." She nodded like that was the correct answer. My mother appeared at the door. That wasn't planned. She must have seen the vehicle from the window. She stepped onto the porch with the careful expression of someone trying to read a situation they don't yet understand. I introduced them. Claire said hello, pleasant, brief, and turned back to the SUV. Not dismissive, just finished. We drove. Claire made calls I half listened to while watching the landscape flatten out toward the highway. She had a property attorney. She had a contractor who specialized in post-disaster reconstruction. She spoke about my situation the way I imagined she spoke about her company's situations, without sentiment, without drama, just variables and resources, and the next correct step. My insurance claim had been sitting in a pending review status for 41 hours. It cleared in 48 more. I don't know exactly what was said or to whom. I know that Claire made one call, and the following morning a claims adjuster was scheduled, and the week after that I had a number and a timeline. I didn't call my mother to tell her. That's not a revenge decision. I want to be precise about that. It wasn't strategy. It was just that there was nothing I needed from that conversation. No validation, no acknowledgement, no moment where the geometry shifted and I became visible. I didn't need her to understand what had happened. I understood what had happened. That was enough. I sent a text 3 days later. Short. I'm sorted. Got a place. I'm fine. She sent back a prayer emoji and a line about Derek finding a new job lead. I looked at it for a moment. Then I set the phone face down on the table in the temporary apartment Claire's contractor had arranged, in a city that felt, for the first time in a long time, like it might have room for me. Outside, it was just an ordinary afternoon. No freight train sound. No green-gray sky. Just the next thing, waiting to begin.